There's a graph you've probably seen more times than you can count. The one where a small amount of money slowly turns into a massive pile over 30 or 40 years. It starts flat, then suddenly it curves upward like a rocket. And every time you see it, the message is the same. Just start. Stay consistent. Let compounding take over. But there's one question almost nobody asks. If that graph is real, if compounding is this unstoppable force, then why are so many people who've been investing for years still not getting ahead? Not because they didn't start, not because they weren't patient, but because there's a part of that graph nobody explains. That curve doesn't show up for everyone. Compounding has a floor, and most people never get above it. My name is Nathan, and I spend way too much time thinking about how money really works. Do me a favor and subscribe to the channel because you may never find it again. You've probably heard the classic example. A penny doubled every day for a month turns into millions. It sounds incredible, and technically it works, but it hides something important. That example assumes a return that doesn't exist in real life. That's not investing. That's a thought experiment. In reality, broad market returns land somewhere around 7 to 10% a year. After inflation, maybe 6 or 7. That's not explosive. That's slow. That's steady. And at small amounts, it's almost invisible. If you invest $100 and earn 8%, you made $8. 8. That's not life-changing. That barely registers. But people keep repeating the same advice. It doesn't matter how much you start with. Just start. And while that sounds encouraging, it skips over something critical. Compounding only feels like compounding after you cross a certain point. Below that point, you're not really compounding. You're just stacking money slowly. The curve is flat. The growth feels small. And for most people, that's where they stay. On the flat part. Watching the promise. Never feeling the payoff. And the worst part is what happens next. They assume it's their fault. They picked the wrong investment. They started too late. They're not doing it right. But none of that is true. The strategy wasn't the problem. The timing wasn't the problem. The scale was the problem. So, what is this threshold? It's not one exact number. It moves depending on your returns and how long you stay invested. But the idea stays the same. Compounding becomes real when your base gets large enough that the growth starts creating noticeable growth. Let's make that simple. Say you've saved $5,000 and it grows at 8%. That's $400 in a year. Then that $400 earns a small amount the next year. It's moving, but slowly. Now imagine $100,000. That same 8% gives you $8,000 in a year, and that $8,000 starts generating its own growth. Now the system starts to feel alive. Now it starts building on itself. That's when things change. Charlie Munger once said the first 100,000 is the hardest, not just emotionally, mathematically. Below that number, you're doing almost all the work. Your income, your savings, your effort. The market barely moves the needle. Above it, something shifts. You start waking up to days where your investments moved more than your paycheck. That's the turning point. That's when compounding stops being theory and starts becoming something you can actually feel. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never reach that point. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, because the climb to get there is harder than it looks. According to Federal Reserve data, the typical household nearing retirement has under $200,000 saved. That means a lot of people only reach that threshold late, if they reach it at all. But most of that time is spent in the slow phase. By the time things start picking up, they're already thinking about pulling money out. And this is where the conversation gets real. Most financial advice assumes something, that the gap between where you are and where compounding works can be closed just by cutting expenses. For some people, that's true. For many, it isn't. If your income is tight and your costs are fixed, there's only so much you can trim. You can optimize everything and still not have enough room. That's why the just start early advice frustrates so many people, because it skips the hardest part. It's like showing someone the view from the top of a mountain without mentioning the steep climb at the beginning. That first milestone isn't easy. It's a wall, and depending on your situation, it can feel permanent. There's also something else people don't talk about: the mental side. When you invest consistently for years, and most of your balance is still just what you put in, it feels slow. It feels like nothing is happening. And when you compare that to what you see online, it can feel like you're behind. But you're not. You're just early in the process. The math hasn't kicked in yet. Now, this isn't meant to discourage you. It's meant to make things clear. Because pretending this wall doesn't exist makes people quit. And quitting is what actually stops progress. So the real question becomes this: if that first big milestone is the hardest part, how do you get there? There are three things that matter more than anything else. First, income matters more than optimization. At this stage, earning more has a bigger impact than saving slightly better. This isn't about working nonstop. It's about focusing on what actually moves the needle: a better job, a higher paying skill, an extra income stream. Those change your trajectory faster than cutting small expenses. You can't shrink your way across a gap that wide. You have to grow across it. Second, protect what you build. Early on, the biggest risk isn't a bad investment. It's losing what you already saved. Unexpected costs, job changes, life events. That's why having a buffer matters. Because every time you reset to zero, you don't just lose money, you lose time. And time is what compounding needs. Third, track the right things. Don't compare yourself to a curve designed to show the ending. Track your actual progress, your total saved, your milestones: 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. Each step matters, not because the growth is huge yet, but because each step brings you closer to where it will be. Think of it like building a runway. At first, it looks like nothing is happening, just more ground being covered. But eventually, that runway becomes long enough for something to lift off. And once it does, everything changes. Here's what matters most: compounding is real. It's powerful, but it's not instant, and it's not evenly distributed. The larger your base, the more it works. The smaller your base, the quieter it is. That doesn't mean you shouldn't start. You absolutely should. But it does mean you need to understand what stage you're in. Because below the threshold, effort matters most. Above it, momentum takes over. And getting from one to the other is the entire game. The compounding threshold is real, and knowing that isn't negative, it's useful. Because once you understand why things feel slow, you stop second-guessing yourself, and you start focusing on what actually moves you forward. If this changed how you see money or investing, share it with a friend, and please subscribe. That's what this channel is built for.